Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Pop Culture Alphabet. I'm Aidan Kilmartin and I'll be making my way through the alphabet from A to Z, talking about and analysing topics that have had a significant influence on pop culture. Today I'll be talking about Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgundy, and its effect on pop culture as a whole. It is a movie that spawned 1,000 memes and quotes and changed comedy many years after it was made, but before I talk about that, I have to give the backstory and how it came to be made. Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy is a 2004 American comedy film directed by Adam McKay and produced by Judd Apatow. Adam McKay is an Academy Award-winning director and was head writer of Saturday Night Live for 2 years. He is responsible for other classic movies such as Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Step Brothers, The Other Guys, and Anchorman 2: The Legend Continues, all of which were written with Will Ferrell, Ron Burgundy himself. McKay wrote and directed the Oscar-winning film The Big Short and the criminally underrated film Vice. All of his movies heavily feature members of the Saturday Night Live cast. Judd Apatow is a frequent collaborator with McKay and is the director of many famous movies such as The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Funny People, This Is 40 and Trainwreck. And his new movie, The King of Staten Island, will be releasing soon. Another piece of background information you would need to know about these movies is they all feature a recurring cast of actors known colloquially as the Frat Pack. The group is usually considered to include Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Will Ferrell, Steve Carell, and Vince Vaughn. All members of the Frat Pack have never appeared in a single movie together. They have came closest in Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy, which featured all but Owen Wilson. Other members of the Frat Pack include John C. Reilly, Paul Rudd, David Koechner, and Jack Black. While still at Saturday Night Live, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay began working on a script titled August Blowout, which Ferrell would later describe as Glengarry Glen Ross meets a car dealership. Although the script was popular around Hollywood, the resulting movie never got made. But that didn't stop them, and they kept on coming up with ideas. McKay stated that the idea for the film that would become Anchorman came about after Will saw an interview with a 70s anchorman talking about how sexist they were, and it was that tone of voice he loved. An early version of the script was a parody of the disaster film Alive, with a group of newspeople. After Ron Burgundy crashes their plane, they are stranded in the wilderness and have to try and make their way back to civilization. A subplot would even involve characters trying to escape from a group of ninja star-wielding orangutans. Anna McKay stated that a version of the script originally included a musical number with sharks as well. This ultimately did not go anywhere, but put them on the track to write Anchorman. But there were still many rewrites to come. The film initially centered around the reporters tracking down a clumsy yet elusive group of hippie bank robbers, known colloquially as the Alarm Clock. This was even shot and shown to test audiences, but it had dreadfully poor reviews. However, this did make it into the direct-to-DVD follow-up to the movie Wake Up Ron Burgundy, the Lost Movie, which also featured plotlines like Burgundy taking a shot for Veronica and later a shot of him emerging from a television van to a cheering crowd, with Burgundy visibly showing a bandaged wound. Veronica and Ron tackling each other on the conference room table, collapsing with Ron shouting, "Let's make a baby." Ron admiring his own billboard. Ed Harkin asking what a lead is, and Ron standing by the side of the road with a long beard and a guitar on his back trying to hitchhike. Eventually McKay and Farrell wrote the script to the movie, but they did have trouble when it came to getting it produced. The film was pitched to DreamWorks almost 20 times before they took it on. They only chose to do it following the success of the movies Old School from 2003 and Elf also from 2003, which both feature Will Ferrell as the lead. DreamWorks had little faith in the film, doubting Will Ferrell and Adam McKay could pull off an entire film based on news anchors. I'm about to talk about the general plot of Anchorman, which will involve some spoilers for the movie, so you have been warned. The movie follows the life of Ron Burgundy, who is a famous anchorman for a local San Diego television station, Channel 4. He works alongside his friends whom he has known since childhood. On the news team there is lead field reporter Brian Fontana, played by Paul Rudd, sportscaster Champ Kind, played by David Koechner, and meteorologist Brick Tamlin, played by Steve Carell. After throwing a wild party for the fact they are still the highest rated news program in San Diego, you get a more in-depth look at the news team's personality. Also at this party is Veronica Corningstone, played by Christina Applegate, who Ron Burgundy tries to strike up a relationship with. It is soon revealed that she is now working on the news team, which annoys the men who are sexist and misogynistic towards her. After a series of attempts by Ron to seduce her, she gives in and strikes up a relationship with Ron. One day, on his way into the work, Ron gets held up when he has an altercation with a biker about his dog Baxter, which makes him late for work. Unable to stall the news, they put on Veronica as the lead anchor. She is well received, and the ratings go up, so they make her a co-anchor with Ron, which makes him and the rest of the news team furious. This incites a rivalry between the two of them. One day, on their way to get suits to cheer themselves up, they end up in the wrong part of town and are confronted by rival teams, and in one of the funniest moments and most iconic parts of the movie, have a full-on battle resulting in dismemberment and even murder. A scene I will go in depth on later. Eventually, the rivalry between Corningstone and Burgundy resulted in Burgundy getting fired by his producer Ed, when his teleprompter has been changed to say "Go fuck yourself, San Diego," instead of his signature closing line, "You stay classy, San Diego." He is unaware about what he did until someone pointed it out to him. Burgundy soon becomes unemployed, friendless, and heavily antagonized by the public, while Veronica enjoys fame, although her male co-workers hate her. Ed also informs Brian, Champ, and Brick that if they see Ron, he would fire them instantly, or if they even talk to him, they would get fired. 3 months later, when a panda is about to give birth, every news team in San Diego rushes to the zoo to cover the story. In an attempt to sabotage her, a rival news anchor pushes Corningstone into a bar enclosure. When Ed is unable to locate Veronica, he recruits Burgundy. Once at the zoo, Burgundy jumps in the bar pen to save Veronica. As the public watches helplessly, the news team then jumps in to save Veronica and Ron. Just as the bears are about to attack, Baxter the dog comes to save the day. After being saved, the other news team make amends with each other, and the movie ends with the narrator talking about what the news team would later go on to do, such as Brian Fontana becomes the host of Fox reality show named Intercourse Island. Brick Tamland is married with 11 children and is a top political advisor to George W. Bush, and Champ Kind is a commentator for the NFL before getting fired after being accused by Terry Bradshaw of sexual harassment. And Burgundy or Corningstone are co-anchors for the CNN-esque World News Center. One thing to take into account about the movie is the sheer amount of talent. So much, in fact, that they even had to cut whole parts, including Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph's part in the unused hippie bank robbers scenes. But the movie features many people who now would be household names. Will Ferrell stars in many comedy movies and TV shows. Steve Carell launched to stardom in part due to this movie, and was Michael Scott, the lead character of NBC's The Office, which also starred David Koechner. Both characters are very similar to their Anchorman counterparts. Paul Rudd went to star in many comedy and drama movies, and became a vital part of the MCU as Ant-Man. But as well as that, there were many smaller parts by big celebrities. Jack Black as a biker, Ben Stiller as another news anchor, Seth Rogen as a cameraman, Fred Armisen as a club owner, and Danny Trejo as a bartender. And the movie also included Tim Robbins, Judd Apatow, Luke Wilson, and the director Adam McKay. All of these parts are very small but still quite significant to the movie and have had some great moments. Like you can tell Fred Armisen is holding back laughter when he is force feeding cat shit to Will Ferrell, who gives in and tries to eat the whole thing, and Jack Black getting assaulted with a burrito and being so furious that he fly kicks a dog off a bridge. It's parts like this that make the movie comedic gold. But this isn't all down to the amazing script. It's down to the comedic talents of the actors and actresses of the movie. Adam McKay went on record saying that there's about 6 recorded versions of every scene in the movie, some of which would go on to be in Wake Up Ron Burgundy, or the bloopers at the end. He also said that about 20 minutes of the real movie was improvisations by the cast, most of which were from Will Ferrell and Steve Carell. These included lines like, "I love lamp," "Are you just saying things in the room?" "I immediately regret this decision," and probably the most famous line of the movie, "Well, that escalated quickly." This all led to the cast treating the script more of an outline of the movie than an actual guide to stick to. Because of this, Farrell and McKay recorded an audio commentary for the film's home release, which consists of random, mostly fictitious discussions of no relevance to the film or its production. The movie wasn't always going to have this cast, however. The first draft of the screenplay suggested actors like Ed Harris playing Ed, Chris Purnell as Brick Tamland. Chris did up getting the part of Gareth, and Ben Stiller as Brian Fontana, which would have really changed the movie. The script also specified another member of the news team, Marshall Connors, with William H. Macy suggested for the part. Before I talk about the movie's cultural impact, I do want to mention a few other little interesting facts, such as the fact Tim Robbins only chose to do his part of the newscaster for public television and his part in High Fidelity because they promised to make him a custom wig for each role. Both wigs he got to keep after filming ended. Robbins said in a 2019 interview that he still owns both wigs and uses them in Halloween costumes, which is truly a win for him. The reason the TV network channel is called Channel 4 is because McKay likes the number 4. It is referenced throughout the movie. For example, the Channel 4 news team originally has 4 members. The opposing evening news team also has 4 members. Burgundy mentions a bank loan being denied to the Human Torch, who is a member of the Fantastic Four, and when Ron is talking with Fontana from a public phone box. On Fontana's desk, you can see a 4x4 version of a Rubik's Cube, which is also a great example of visual comedy, as it helps represent that his character has a low intelligence, as a normal Rubik's Cube would have 9 on each side. One thing to note is the movie's epilogue claims that Brick went on to become a top advisor in George W. Bush's presidential administration. Steve Carell went on to play Bush's Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, in the movie Vice from 2018, which is also directed by Adam McKay. Taking jabs at George W. Bush's administration is a running theme in McKay's movies, as with his American Man trilogy and others. The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Step Brothers, and the other guys are supposed to make fun of the average American, as they are stupid, weak-minded, and easily led. This all culminates in Vice, which is a direct call-out to his policies, even to go as far as to get Sam Rockwell in the role of George W. Bush to act even more incompetent than he is in real life. And finally, one other thing to point out is, 2 members of the writing staff on the movie were Jon Hamm of Mad Men fame, and Adam Scott, who played the role of Ben Wyatt in Parks and Recreation, and also went on to star in another of McKay's movies, Step Brothers, where he played Brennan's evil brother Derek and gave us the hit rendition of the song Sweet Child of Mine by the Guns N' Roses. Personally, the movie is a staple of pop culture due to its visual and verbal comedy and its ability to tackle a controversial subject such as sexism in the workplace and yet make a hilarious watch from start to finish. The 4 main characters are stereotypical men from the 70s and don't want to change something that is already so good, so they try and stop the change in many different ways, all failing. Its hold on pop culture is very firm, not only being made by one of the greatest comedy directors of all time, but being very quotable, which with many people recreating the jazz flute scene in the diner all over the internet. It builds suspense by him starting off by starting and stopping, then getting on the tables and dancing, and kicking off cutlery everywhere, and crawling under the stall of a toilet while playing, and then finally culminates with him shooting fire out of the flute by spraying alcohol and lighting it on fire with his lighter, finally ending back on stage where he brushes it off like it was nothing. All of which is added to by the fact that Will Ferrell can actually play the flute and did the scene by himself. The scene was also parodied by famous singer Lizzo, who also plays the flute. Another scene that has been ingrained in pop culture is when Ron asks Fontana how does he get ladies, who reveals that he wears a cologne called Sex Panther. He then goes on to say the iconic line, 60% of the time, it works every time. So Fontana puts it on, only to be told by the entire office that it's disgusting, and smells like pure gasoline, Bigfoot's dick, and a used diaper filled with Indian food. The stench is so bad that it clears the office. It makes women scream and sets off a fire alarm, and Brian has to be hosed down outside the building to maintain the stench. Everyone is disgusted and on the verge of vomiting. Another amazing use of visual comedy. One attribute of the comedy in the movie is the fact Ron Burgundy is so quotable, and because he is very stupid. He says whatever he is thinking, so he comes off with phrases like, I own many paperback books, my apartment smells of rich mahogany, when he is trying to talk to Victoria. When he is talking to his pet dog Baxter, he comes out with, I'm not even mad, that's impressive. And when he jumps into the bar pit at the end, he says, I immediately regret this decision. You can tell he doesn't think through what he does, as when he gets into the altercation with Jack Black's character, he just offers him money and doesn't even apologise. An action so stupid that Jack Black fly kicks his dog off the bridge thereon. This is also followed by him trying to phone up, saying that he will be there in time, but getting trapped in a phone box and saying, I'm trapped in a glass cage of emotion. Then, in an homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he runs through downtown San Diego, getting hit by cars and stealing cigarettes on his way, only making it back in time for the whole thing to be over, but he insists that he should go on anyway. One reason the movie is so funny is because they don't take it too seriously. They play into the tropes of similar movies, but make it more outrageous. In the battle sequence, it is supposed to be a standoff of the heroes against the villains in Anchorman. It is specifically a reference to the opening scene of West Side Story from 1961. To add to this, Vince Vaughn's character wears a yellow jacket in the scene, which is which the characters of Tony and Riff wore in that film. During the pivotal dance scene, you can also draw parallels to today's superhero movies, which also feature battle scenes with senseless violence. The scene has the four main guys face off against another news crew, and then another, and then another, all at the same time, which is to show how saturated the media of news has gotten, which is also picked up in the sequel in the exact same way, with news channels that cover entertainment, music, and sports instead of just having one news channel. They even undermine themselves, as when they are taking out their weapons, they take out brass knuckles, a bedstand, and a chain, yet Brick takes out a hand grenade and acts like it's normal. Then the fight begins with all the groups attacking each other. Luke Wilson's character gets his arm ripped off, which happens again to his other arm later. Some people start using horses and charge at them, but Brick produces a trident out of nowhere and kills a man. Another way they show they didn't take themselves too seriously is when they use the Wilhelm scream when Champ throws another man incredibly far into a car window. It is then all broken up when they hear police sirens and return to the station. When the most famous quote of the entire movie is said with, well, that escalated quickly. They then go on to talk about how weird it was that Brick killed a man with a trident. It's this type of self-horror humour that McKay is known for. Another iconic part of the movie is when Ron Burgundy gets fired from his job and becomes an alcoholic sitting at home all day. He is walking into a bar and passes a woman and her daughter, who turn to him and say she is disappointed in him. This is actually the director's wife, Shara Piffin, and his daughter Lily Rose. He continues on in his bathrobe with milk down his face, feeling sick as it's a hot day. This also gives us the classic line, "Milk was a bad choice." And finally, the end of the movie is the ultimate way they showed they weren't serious, with the climax of the movie being about saving Veronica from a pit of bears. The reason she is in the pit is because she was pushed in by Tim Robbins' character. Ed calls in Ron to take over from her and then finds Ron. Ron finds her in the pit, and instead of going to help, he jumps in the pit with her, showing how he doesn't think about things and is fast on his feet. The news team also try and come to help out, but end up getting mauled by the bears, and Brick even ends up riding one of them. Eventually, the person who you would least expect comes to the rescue. I say person, but it's actually Ron's dog Baxter, who comes as Ron shouts for help. The part that's quite memorable is that it shows stock footage of animals that look like they were filmed for a nature documentary when Baxter hears Ron screaming. Baxter then speaks to the bear and he says he knows his cousin and that Ron and his friends were cool. And that's it, that's the entire ending. Yeah, they get out and make amends and the narrator rounds it off, but that was the ending. It's so rushed and unexpected, it's hilarious. The end credits also have bloopers from the movie of the actors trying to say their lines while laughing and improvisations during the movie, like the ones Champ and Bratton do when Veronica is hosting for the first time, and things like Steve Carell trying to say the stupidest things he could. Anchorman made 28.4 million in its opening weekend and 90.6 million worldwide in its total theatrical run, with a budget of 26 million. The fact that it was met with positive reviews from critics and the general public and is now widely regarded as one of the best comedy films of the 2000s. A sequel was pitched to Paramount Pictures but was initially rejected. Will Ferrell later announced that Anchorman would get a sequel that released on December 20th, 2013, with Paramount Pictures replacing DreamWorks as the distributor. It received generally positive reviews and grossed $173 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. Personally, I really enjoy the movie, probably because I'm a big fan of McKay's movies and the cast. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5, as it's not my favourite McKay movie, but it's still really good. Thanks for listening to the first episode of the Pop Culture Alphabet. Join me again in the next few days when I talk about a movie that fundamentally changed time travel in movies since it was made. So don't forget to come back and listen to that. Leave a review and maybe give it a share. Bye for now.